Welcome to Washington, D.C. Meeting. The Lodge meets every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Currently, we are discussing the Ocean of Theosophy, accompanied by the answers to the questions Ocean of Theosophy. Every first Sunday of the month, we have a talk, and today's talk is Why Should We Meditate? So before we start a talk, we'll have read a declaration and followed by devotional reading.
Okay, the Declaration of the United Lodge of Theosophists is that the policy of this lodge is independent devotion to the cause of theosophy without professing attachment to any theosophical organization. It is loyal to the great founders of the theosophical movement, but does not concern itself with dissensions or differences of individual opinion. The work it has on hand and the end it keeps in view are too absorbing and too lofty to leave it the time or inclination to take part in side issues. That work and that end is the dissemination of the fundamental principles of the philosophy of theosophy and the exemplification and practice of those principles through a truer realization of the self, a profounder conviction of universal brotherhood. It holds that the unassailable basis for union among theosophists, wherever and however situated, is similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching, and therefore has neither constitution, bylaws, nor officers, the sole bond between its associates being that basis. And it aims to disseminate this idea among theosophists in the furtherance of unity. It regards as theosophists all who are engaged in the true service of humanity, without distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization. And it welcomes to its association all those who are in accord with its declared purposes and who desire to fit themselves, by study and otherwise, to be the better able to help and teach others. The motto is that the true theosophist belongs to no cult or sect, yet belongs to each and all.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now a devotional reading. Calm and unmoved, the pilgrim glideth up the stream that to nirvana leads. He knoweth that the more his feet will bleed, the whiter will himself be washed. He knoweth well that after 7 short and fleeting births, nirvana will be his. Such is the dhyana path, the haven of the yogi, the blessed goal that satapatis crave. Not so when he hath crossed and won the Aryata path. There, klesha is destroyed forever, Tana's root torn out. But stay, disciple, yet one word. Canst thou destroy divine compassion? Compassion is no attribute. It is the law of laws, eternal harmony, Alaya's self, a shoreless universal essence, the light of everlasting right, and fitness of all things, the law of love eternal. The more thou dost become at one with it, thy being melted into its being, the more thy soul unites with that which is, the more that wilt become compassion absolute. Such is the Arya path, path of the Buddhas of perfection. Withal, what mean the sacred scrolls which make thee say, Om, I believe it is not all that arhats that get of the nirvanic path, the sweet fruition. Om, I believe that the nirvana dharma is entered not by all the Buddhas. Yea, on the Arya path, thou art no more strapapati, thou art bodhisattva. The stream is crossed. 'Tis true that thou hast a right to a dharma kaya vesture, but sambhaga kaya is greater than nirvani, and greater still is nirmana kaya, the Buddha of compassion. Now bend thy head and listen well, O Bodhisattva. Compassion speaks and saith, can there be bliss when all that lives must suffer? Shalt thou be saved and hear the whole world cry? Now that hast heard that which was said, thou shalt attain the seventh step and cross the gate of final knowledge, but only to wed woe, if thou wouldst be Tathagata, followed by thy predecessor steps, remain unselfish till the endless end. Thou art enlightened. Choose thy way.
Hope you can start your talk.
Okay, can you see what I'm holding up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we just heard from the Bhagavad Gita how to forever burst the bonds of karma and rise above those bonds, that whoever at the hour of death abandoneth body, fixed in meditation upon Krishna, without doubt goeth to him. And he who with heart undiverted to any other object meditates constantly and through the whole of life on Krishna shall surely attain to Krishna. No wonder the idea of meditation has engaged such a great interest. Today we will focus on the benefits of meditation. On September 25, we will address the culture of concentration, which is absolutely necessary for successful meditation. Prior talks have established that meditation is an active effort to control the mind. We think of the brain as the mind, but it is merely a vehicle of the mind. The top of page 38 of here, the volume 1 of the Secret Doctrine says, it defines the mind as the sum of the states of consciousness grouped under thoughts, will, and feeling. As humans, our job is to channel all these states of consciousness toward carrying out the divine. So, can you see number 1 on the board of meditation?
Yes.
So, successful meditation is about turning our thoughts, will, and feelings from focus on the personal lower self to the divine higher self. To do so, we must take charge of our thoughts, will, and feelings, one moment at a time, until we are in full control of them at all times. You may wish to view the 2020 June 14 talk on meditation and concentration, which can be found at our website, www.uotdc.org, along with other talks, as you continue to try to control your concentration, and join us on Google Meet for our September 25 talk on the culture of concentration. Pages 10 and 11 and 16, 6 to 7 of the Key to Theosophy address meditation as silent and unuttered prayer, or as Plato expressed it, the ardent turning of the soul toward the divine, not to ask for any particular good, as in the common or esoteric meaning of prayer, but for the universal supreme good, out of the essence of which we are all a part. Plato also reminds us to remain silent in the presence of the divine ones, till they remove the clouds from thy eyes and enable thee to see by the light which issues from themselves not what appears as good to thee, but what is intrinsically good. In the footnote on page 11 of the key, we see spiritual photography addressed as the soul is the camera in which facts and events in future, past, and present are all alike fixed, and the mind becomes conscious of them. Beyond our everyday world of limits, all is one day or state. The past, the future comprised in the present. The note ends with the statement, the kingdom of God is within us. HPB talks about the exoteric aspect of prayer as seeking dependence on an outer source of being, as killing self-reliance because it prevents us from relying on our own true self, giving thanks to an outside God for blessings, or petition for forgiveness of sins, or for some action. The prayer of confession involving a petition for forgiveness is counter to the law of karma and the biblical statement that whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So our occultist or a theosophical, an occultist or a theosophist addresses his prayer to his Father, which is in secret. Like chapter 6, verse 6 of Matthew, which says, but when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut the door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. We interpret Matthew as not referring to an extra cosmic and therefore finite God, but to the Father in man himself, or to what theosophists call the higher self. The key starting on page 70, addresses the kinds of common prayers that, as now understood, A, kills in man's self-reliance, and B, develops in the prayer a still more ferocious selfishness and egotism than he is already endowed by nature with. Again, theosophists believe in communion and simultaneous action in unison with our Father in secret, and in rare moments of ecstatic bliss in the mingling of our higher soul with the universal essence, attracted as it is towards its origin and center, a state called during life samadhi, and after death nirvana. But the theosophists refuse to pray to created finite beings, that is, gods, saints, angels, and so forth, because we regard such prayer as idolatry. As for the benefits, it is essential to give place to meditation in our lives to, number 2, have physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being and happiness. Automatically, we should automatically follow the mind and becoming free from negative emotions. And I'll read that again. Number 2, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being and happiness automatically follow the mind, becoming free from negative emotions. For man, number 3, mind is the cause of both bondage and liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is the cause of bondage, and mind detached from them is the cause of liberation. Teaching the Upanishads. The 6th chapter of the Gita describes self as being both the friend and an enemy of the self. In other words, the number 4, lower self or mind tending towards passions and desires must be controlled and mastered. Otherwise, it will drag down the man and becomes his enemy. But on the other hand, the same mind, when conquered, moves towards the divine, is guided by the divine, becomes the friend of man who has subdued and conquered it. The mind that moves towards the divine not only overcomes its attraction to sense objects, but also recognizes its oneness with the divine. Only then does it become a friend of man. Number 5, there is only one mind allowed, the higher mind. In the Sufi mystic Rumi's poem, a man went to the door of the beloved and knocked. When asked who he was, he replied, "It is I." The door remained shut, and the voice said, "There is no room for me and thee." After a year of solitude and deprivation, he returned and knocked again, saying, "It is thee." The door was opened for him. This recognition results only when there is self-denial, self-abnegation, self-effaces, and self-transcendence. In most of us, the mind is a slave and victim to the passions and desires, and is the karma tending mind. But when it becomes free from the desire nature, it turns upward to the divine nature, and then it becomes a channel for flowing in of the divine ideas. So meditation or Raja Yoga is a condition of consciousness in which our mind is turned inward and remains steady in that direction. Meditation is impossible without enveloping the faculty of attention. Referring to number 1, we have to constantly pay attention to the focus of mind, which is thought, will, and feeling. So true concentration is not the concentration of the brain mind and on external things. True concentration, number 6, is the highest yoga, says Mr. Crosby, concentration upon the higher self within. Even to the daily activities of ordinary mind, concentration is required, but it is not necessarily the same as right concentration. A cat waits with all its attention focused on a mouse hole, ready to pounce as soon as a mouse appears. A pickpocket is intent on the victim's wallet, waiting for a moment to remove it. We could also take the example of a surgeon who performs surgery with one-pointed attention, or a painter who is completely concentrated while painting. But does this concentration change their nature? Do they really, as a result, become free from anger, greed, attachment, or aversion? Right concentration, as we will hear in September 25, must have as its focus an object that is free from all craving, all aversion, and all illusion. So behind will stands desire. Our focus is to train what we call our higher and lower minds to be guided by the highest desire at all times and to act accordingly. Patanjali's yoga aphorisms. which is summarized in this book here, and the Gita plainly tell us that tell us all this, and we must practice turning our desires in that direction and have the will to keep trying through meditation. Of the various kinds of meditation and mind control practices, Theosophy recommends two safe, ethically, and sound philosophically approaches. First, number 7.8, the first deals with the exercise of self-examination, and the second is concerned with turning the attention and thought to some high and noble spiritual theme, such as brotherhood, compassion, sacrifice, etc. If we wish to be better and happier human beings, we need to introduce into our lives the exercise of self-examination of the lower personal self by the higher and impersonal self. We must undertake self-examination at the end of the day and review not only the events, but also our thoughts, feelings, words, habits, and actions. Without trying to explain away our mistakes and blunders, we must note our good points and weak points and resolve to strengthen the good and eliminate the weaknesses. The contact of senses with these objects produce pleasurable or painful sensations must, which results in our likes and our dislikes. We seem to repeat pleasurable sensations and avoid the unpleasant ones. Our mind has a tender, natural tendency to fly to the present ideas. Uncontrolled desires make man a slave to his desire. That which was the source of pleasure becomes the source of pain through craving and addiction. We see that this happens to the ordinary man who becomes a gambler, an alcoholic, or a drug addict. It is better to be moderate in everything and try to, number 8, cultivate contentment and detachment. To cultivate detachment, we have to reflect upon the transitory nature of our enjoyments and meditate upon our true nature, which is not affected by our pleasures or pain. The number 9, attention must be diverted from its natural outward going tendency and turn within. Move it up a little bit here. The Gita teaches that the mind spontaneously turns inwards when there is realization that those pleasures which arise from contact of the senses with external objects are wounds of pain, because they have a beginning and an end. In fact, one begins to realize that such pleasures follow the law of diminishing return. That which is the source of pleasure becomes the source of pain, because sooner or later one will be separated from it, because all conditions, things are impermanent. People usually separate meditation and day-to-day life, but they are interdependent. The number 10, strength and the power gained through meditation manifest themselves in fortitude and patience in the daily struggle for existence. The man of meditation shows foresight and calmness in each event. As for the power and effectiveness of meditation, we recall the time in 2018 when 12 boys between 11 and 16 years old, along with their 25-year-old soccer coach, got trapped in a dark, underground cave in Thailand for nearly two weeks due to an unexpected flash flood. The rescuers were surprised to find that there were no hysterics or breakdowns. They discovered that due to the guided meditation and breathing that their soccer coach taught them, who was himself a former novice Buddhist monk, practicing meditation daily. Number 11, spiritual discipline does not mean mere staring at a spot on the wall or reading of scriptures or sitting with eyes closed, but consists in transforming one's life and learning to change one's perception of life. Meditation helps in achieving this. Philosophically, change is the very nature of existence. No one expressed it better than the Buddha, who, number 12, who taught all consciousness, all conditioned existence is impermanent. It is not possible to hold on to things, people, or places forever. The constantly moving wheel of life brings pleasure and pain, and to be unaffected by these, there is a need to be, number 13, equal-minded. And that can be achieved by recognizing that aspect in us which is unchanging and identifying with it. Every day we must observe silence for a few minutes and set apart, number 14, half an hour for meditation. No phone or TV or other distractions. Most of all, we need 15 to cultivate companionship with the silent spectator within. A Shah of Persia, when asked why he meditated all through the night, answered, quote, "At night I pursue God, and during the day God follows me." So the regular practice of meditation must get reflected in one's day-to-day life with the experience of being guided by the divine within. We often ask, what are the signs of a successful meditation? The answer generally given is that, among other things, one should feel more cheerful, calm, and happy within. Meditation helps to divert the attention from its natural outgoing tendency to turn withinward, so that there is no longer any response to external stimuli. Regular practice of meditation helps to build an island of pure thoughts to which one can retrieve at will. One becomes more and more receptive to the inner divine nature, the inner divine voice. It helps to unfold one's intuitive faculty to know the truth in all things and experience superhuman bliss, which is not dependent on anything external. A regular practitioner of meditation finds that it is far easier for him to concentrate his mind, and as a result, there is a deeper understanding of what he reads and an increased ability to see different facets of the subject. Such a person is not satisfied with the first answer received to his question, but finds himself on an ongoing quest for truth. Meditation practices tends to refine one's psychic nature so that one may find oneself dropping grosser desires and looking out for refinement and substance in the psychic pleasures. There's an easier acceptance of pain, adversity, loss, and also less and less dependence on the external pleasures. Meditation helps a person to remain undisturbed if any or all pleasures are denied to him. We have to learn to steady in mind, pay conscious attention to those things we desire to know. Patanjali reminds us that, number 16, mind becomes that on which it dwells. Regular practice of meditation makes the mind positive, alert, and active. True meditation consists in the reasoning from the known to the unknown. We should meditate to learn to take charge of ourselves by changing the quality of our mind, by converting the reactive mind into the creative mind. Our ordinary everyday mind does not really act, but it reacts. It does not act spontaneously, but requires some stimulus to set it in motion. We have fixed responses to a given stimulus, and it is as if we were programmed. Number 17, the creative mind responds instead of reacting. When criticized for being proud or stingy, we can always do some soul searching. If the criticism applies, we must take steps to improve. If not, we may ignore it. We must learn to act from within and not just react to stimuli from without. Number 17, the creative mind loves unconditionally. The creative mind is always willing to see the brighter side of life, which enables a person to say, with all the sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. The creative mind makes for an emotionally positive person. As Hugh Downs observed, a happy person is not a person in a certain set of circumstances, but rather a person with a certain set of attitudes. The creative mind is able to create heaven in hell's despair. Says the Buddhist teacher, number 18, let us meditate on that which is in us as the highest self, concentrate upon it, and will to work for it as dwelling in every heart, every human heart. So the practice of samadhi is like that of shooting. An inexperienced archer will first practice shooting at a larger target, then a smaller one, and he will train himself to hit an object by making it smaller and smaller. Thus, having increased in skill, he will be able, as quickly as thought, to hit a thing, no matter how small, so that even if he has only heard the voice of a man or an animal standing in the dark, he would be able to at once locate it and hit it without fail. Mr. Judge certainly hit the bullseye repeatedly as a theosophist and was also an archer. We find that we must meditate, declare a wish for concentration, and more develop a powerful will. Mr. Judge suggests that we divide meditation into two sorts. First, to meditate. First is the meditation practice at a set time or an occasional one. That's what we do for the 30 minutes a day. The second is the meditation of an entire lifetime. That single thread, intention, intentiveness, and desire running through the years, stretching between the cradle and the grave. So, number 13, I've lost track of. Number 19. The aphorisms will be found all the need of all the Patanjali's aphorisms will be found all rules, and particularly if these are studied and not forgotten, then practice must give results. If these are studied and not forgotten, the practice will get results. How many of us, though, who reiterate the call for instruction only to turn it down and never consider it again, like so many do for this yoga aphorisms book. The mysterious substance thread of life. Meditation is that which is practiced every hour by philosophers, mystics, saint, criminal, artist, artisan, and merchant. It is pursued in respect to that on which the heart is set. It rarely languishes. At times, the meditating one greedily is running after money, fame, and power, looks up briefly and sighs for a better life during a brief interval. But the passing flash of a dollar recalls him to his modern senses, and the old meditation begins again. Very certainly, if their life meditation is fixed low down near the ground, the result flung to them from it will be strong, very lasting, and relaxed to the lower level, related to the lower levels on which they work. Their semi-occasional meditations will give precisely semi-occasional results in the long string of recurring bursts. So the idea is that we get from the criminal and so forth to have fewer desires and make them high, pure, and altruistic, and ever keep trying to concentrate on desires and be with us on September 25 on a talk on the culture of concentration. I'll turn it over to questions to those who have joined us, and we appreciate your attention. There is more to come, but I think we can take care of everything to come in questioning. So what we have is this will and desire, which lies in the doors of meditation and concentration. And it can be on the higher side or the lower side. That runs through all of nature. And we as humans have the opportunity, because we are we've had the lighting of the mind, to point our meditation and concentration to the higher level. That's the key thing. That's really what meditation is all about. To concentrate on making the mind a higher level for the benefit of all.
Well, thanks so much for a wonderful talk. Really, you laid out some clear rules for us to practice. So I have a question for you. How does yoga and meditate, how are they connected? And we talk about yoga as union, but does one lead to another?
Yeah, I mean, yoga, to me, hatha, I think there's two types that I think of, and to me, yoga is it hatha yoga, and that is the training of the mind, if I understand it correctly, and that leads to concentration and meditation. Yeah, perfect concentration, it says, and overcoming mental instructions. Mr. Judge says, mentioned that all these things get in the way of meditation on the highest aspects. So yeah, they all interrelate. I understand. So if the others want to come in and have a comment about that, it would be great. Or maybe I mean, I think the idea is all this is common sense stuff, but we are not trained to do this until we just realize that we are I'll call it, I would call them God's boots on the ground, or God in its sense of nature's great nature's boots on the ground. Yeah, great nature will go on with or without us, but we can help great nature, as a southern voice of silence, better able to make it better able to help and teach others, or we can put up roadblocks. We are too so much doing that now with the environment and so forth. It's turning against us for our, because we are messing things up. We don't always. I mean, we also are now beginning to understand that, and we are trying to get it turned around, and so we have to overcome that. And we also have the cycles and so forth that there are natural parts of nature which sweeps off and starts it over again. And some of this will occur whether we do anything or not. The only thing is we can help if we make an effort for a golden age. There will be more of that, and whether no matter what happens to the environment, we can have that mental attitude, the golden age, and it'll help us get through the trying times and continue on.
And for myself, I've learned about meditation 50 years ago or more, and I tried it back then with people, and I frankly do not know how to meditate. How do I get started? What resources are there? And other than just sitting quietly, I don't know how to.
It says if you got to sit quietly, you got to try. That's the whole idea. Is it right? You can put all kinds of words on it, but you got to try. And the more you know, perhaps the more you try, because it says the Plato said that you have to sit down and stay there sometimes until the divine ones tell you what, you know, they enlighten you. I think it says it earlier on. So there, let me see if I can get that quote come up. Turning successful, okay. Anyway, yeah, it says Plato said that you're just turning. You sit there with your focus on the divine, and it'll you get the chance to see the light. But we'll never know it if we can memorize Companionship, which is a wonderful little book, where we can memorize everything in it and not be any closer to meditation than we were when we started. The only thing is, I guess this book tells you things to make you start thinking about and trying, but you gotta try, and you gotta keep on trying, because that's this phase this student is in now. Just trying to trying to see the magic things that happen while you try to meditate. And different people have different experiences, but we all have this same process. It's kind of like life, you know. You go through life and you have different experiences, and you think of things differently than your neighbor does. So you gotta, if we focus on what is best for all concerned, like the voices, I think I just said, the voice of the silence says, work on with her, and she will open open her bosom to you and show us her secrets, if she considers us her friend. So that's about the, I don't know. There's the others have thoughts they can share on that. Certainly, we all try to meditate.
I think reading devotion books daily, even a little bit, the Gita, the Voice of the Silence,
Mhm.
that at least helps you lay the foundation.
Absolutely.
And your point 6, the highest yoga is concentration upon the higher self, and that is the point of meditation in the end. To really get to that point is really studying these books of devotion and kind of following through throughout the day as you go about your work or whatever you do.
Yeah. Because we're living in this world of doing things. We're at the art. We got to do things. We got to do this and that, and it's so easy to fall into this lower end of the spectrum, which it exclude the higher, because it's easier to be selfish than to be selfless. It takes a lot of work to become selfless, I think. That's my experience so far, anyway. Because we have a natural tendency to be selfish.
Now, does all meditation, or do you have to be sitting quietly somewhere? I like to go for a walk in the woods by myself, and I can do that for hours. Is that a form of meditation, or couldn't that?
Yeah, I don't see one. I mean, it says that to sit quietly for half an hour, that's just to train your mind. But when you learn to meditate, you meditate all day, every day. So you're not going to sit there all day, every day. You're just training. You're training your thoughts, your wills, your feelings to be always pointed toward the higher self. And that's what we do when we sit there for half an hour. That's just the start of this lifetime of meditation that this talks about. This whole papers that I've been reading is talking about that. It says thoughts, wills, feelings, and desires. So one little two, three little lines on the top of that page 38 of the Secret Doctrine. It says a whole lot in that little bit, because you can spend lifetimes doing that. Thoughts, will, feelings. How often do we get diverted when we start trying to think about the higher, the divine, the higher self? And when we're washing the dishes, we should be thinking about that too, because we should be doing the best job we can of washing the dishes. That's bringing it down to the level, but not the lower level, because you're also divinity and cleanliness. So this touches every aspect of life. But you do a much better job if you focus on what you're doing the best you can do.
Could you scroll back up to the top so we could review the
Yes.
first page points, please?
Yes, of course. We can discuss them. I've got number 9. 9 of them are visible now. Can you see them?
Yep.
Okay. I can keep going down further if you want to go.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if others are ready, just at some point, yeah, just scroll through. We've talked a lot about meditation, but are there specific recommendations for self-examination?
Oh, yeah, it says that you need to, at the end of the day, we should try to review the day and think about what you've done, and where we've done things right and done things wrong. And let's see if I can get over it. Well, I'm not going to try to find it, but that's what you're supposed to do at the end of the day, until you have I guess we become better at self-examination as time goes by. So we need to try to do that at the end of the day, and in the beginning of the day is a recommended time that you sit for meditation and you think about the Gita, what's in the Gita, what's in it should get your mind focused on the day. When you meditate like that, the first half an hour during the day. So yeah, I mean, getting down to specifics, you still got to try, and we can't. Nobody else can do it for us. And this spiritual photography is something that it's very difficult to see that. They said that at the beginning of the life cycle, you get a picture of where you're at then and what you're going to do for that life. And at the end of your life, you also get that, we call it spiritual photography. And so at the end of the day, it's a smaller cycle of that. You just talk about what you think about what you did during the day, where you stood, or we obviously are human, so we don't do everything perfectly, but we try to sort it out and not criticize ourselves to the point where we beat up on ourselves, but we just concentrate on what we can do better, and try to do it better the next day. It's simple rules, but very difficult to do the first time, and we just got to keep trying.
I think you could tie in on number 20 with self-examination, like having fewer desires, because we have so many desires that we, they're just kind of automatic, and probably a lot of them we could just like, just let go of. Like, I know someone who would say, that they realize they really don't need to have an opinion about a lot of the stuff that happens. They could just, it really is not consequential. They don't really need to have an opinion about it or desire it to go one way or the other. And we just, I think, get into the habit of, maybe hyper focusing on small things or trying to control our circumstances when we could just let a lot of it go. And it's difficult to do, but with practice, maybe it could become a habit.
Yeah, it says have fewer desires and make those high as pure as possible. So that's a key point. And you're right. We pick up on static sometimes, and we kind of have a tendency to hang on to static. When we need to rise above them and pay attention to what we're here for, and get as high a level as we can. But still, we still have to bring that down. I mentioned dishes. They're just things of life that are important. You have to pay attention to. And if we do that, work on having fewer desires, like they talked about the crime. I don't know how much of that I mentioned, but the criminal, the cat watching the mouse hole. That's that the cat wants to get the mouse. So that's the whole idea of having fewer desires, and because we can't possibly do everything. If we got all those desires of the neighbors cutting the trees and so forth, and we have to just focus on. I'm not seeing anybody right now, but I hadn't been seeing anybody. It doesn't matter. Just focus on what's important, which is the future of humanity and so forth, and its future of humanity depends on how we treat also our neighbor, and goes through the whole cycle we've been through, the national, and the international, and the community, and all that. It's a big, it's a lot. It's easy to say, but it's very difficult to do, because we're not trained to do it that way. We're trained naturally to be selfish, and it's the first thing out of the out of the box. We gotta try to be altruistic, pure, and unselfish.
It ties into number 16 that the mind becomes that on which it dwells. So if you're focusing on higher things, what you focus on expands. So they all kind of tie into each other, which is nice.
Mhm. Well, yeah, having pure desires doesn't mean, it just means becoming one-pointed. And if you want to focus on love for humanity, you know, that's an important consideration. But then you don't react, right? As much as you would ordinarily. If you focus on love unconditionally, then you pass up these opportunities to get at the neighbor and things like that. You let bygones be bygones and things. When you have a creative mind, which is responding rather than reacting. That's number 17. I thought that was kind of important too. Because so often, so much of our activities for the day involve reacting and not responding. You know, if we want to love a neighbor, if we want to develop that ability throughout the world, we have to understand where they're coming from, and we have to do a lot of things that we don't seem to do very well now. You know, keep them out and keep. Yeah, we have to have certain rules, but we gotta make every effort possible to have inclusive rules and not exclusive rules. So much. I mean, that's why we have so many religions in the world. Oh, I believe that this little bit. You know, you get before long you have all these religions, and now we're trying to consolidate and say, well, the basic reason for religion in the first place is to, you know, it's to higher love and hope and charity and all that stuff that the Masons have in their lodge in Philadelphia. So our time is about up. We can continue on with this, or we can go on to another subject I think about everybody that's here would be interested in. So we could maybe turn off the recording and talk about what we can do to improve our efforts and move the lodge forward.
Oh, there's a question in the chat box. Lenny wants to know if you be willing to send this list via email.
The
board.
The board.
Yeah.
The board should be out whenever we get around to putting it on the internet. That should be on there.
Okay.
I don't know. This is the first time I'm going to try to do this. I think the board should be showing, right?
Yeah.
Or you know, okay. So the answer to your question, Lenny, is if you don't show, I mean, we can send it out to individuals like you. Now that you mentioned it, I'll send it to you. But that should be available through the internet, through the
YouTube. So
YouTube too. Yeah, that's yes.
so Hope, I'll stop.
Opportunities until the opportunities get confusing sometimes. But yeah, YouTube is your basic your basic recording mechanism. Yeah.
Okay, how about stop recording now? So.
Okay. Thank you.